Below the basement of a house in Long Island, New York, a bustling region in the southeastern part of the state, nestled within Nassau County, there sat a heavy iron barrel. Weighing hundreds of kilograms, this mysterious container had remained untouched for over 30 years, passing through the hands of multiple homeowners. The house itself, located in a quiet town, had seen its fair share of occupants, yet the barrel stayed sealed, until one curious man decided to uncover its secrets on a beautiful, fateful day. What he found inside revealed a horrific mystery buried for 35 years. This story unfolds in 1999 in Long Island, a picturesque island off the southeastern coast of New York, part of one of the most economically vibrant states in the U.S. Our tale centers on a homeowner named Ka Hin, who had lived in the town for 9 years. In 1999, Ka Hin decided it was time to move elsewhere. While clearing out the house, he stumbled upon something unforgettable, an iron barrel hidden beneath the basement stairs. It was Thursday, September 2nd, 1999. Ka Hin, preparing for his relocation, had already sorted through his belongings, discarding what wasn't needed so the new owners could move in seamlessly. Early that morning, he hired a few movers and a truck to assist. They worked efficiently, hauling out furniture and junk of all sizes. But the job hit a snag when one of the movers discovered the massive iron barrel in the basement. Its surface was rusted, the writing on it faded. Clearly, it had been there for decades. The mover tried lifting it, straining with all his might, but it wouldn't budge. He called for help, and 2 others joined him. Together, the 3 men struggled to drag the barrel from the basement to an open patch of ground in front of the house. One of them turned to Ka Hin and said, "This thing's too heavy. We can't load it onto the truck. We've dragged it this far. Figure out what to do with it yourself." Ka Hin stared at the barrel, a flicker of recognition crossing his mind. He remembered it from when he'd moved into the house 9 years earlier, in 1990. Back then, he'd considered getting rid of it, but sheer weight made it impossible to move, so he'd left it alone. Now, seeing it again, his curiosity surged. What could be inside something so heavy? Grabbing a crowbar, he returned to the barrel, determined to pry it open. With effort, he forced the lid off. A putrid stench hit him like a wave, nearly knocking him back. Peering inside, he caught a glimpse of something dark. Despite the smell, his curiosity pushed him to look closer. There among the shadows was a shoe, and next to it a human hand. Terrified, Ka Hin stumbled back, ran into the house, and dialed the police. Within minutes, authorities arrived. They cordoned off the barrel with a perimeter to keep curious onlookers at bay. The discovery shattered the town's peace, drawing a crowd of nosy residents. Initial police observations suggested a body was inside. Fearing evidence tampering, they decided against opening it further on-site and transported the 208-liter, 160-kilogram barrel to a forensic lab. At the lab, technicians spent nearly 3 hours extracting the contents. Inside was a woman dressed neatly, but in outdated clothing, styles popular decades ago. The barrel also contained countless black and white plastic pellets and a green liquid later identified as a chemical dye. Among the items was a purse holding a makeup case, a comb, an eyelash curler, 2 metal rings, one engraved with M, a metal necklace inscribed with "To Patrick," and, most crucially, an address book. The book, however, had been submerged in the liquid for years, its pages so soft they could be pierced with a pen, making the contents nearly illegible. Autopsy results revealed the woman had been pregnant, 9 months along. Her death was caused by multiple blunt force blows to the back of her head. Investigators began piecing together her identity, starting with a profile, a petite Hispanic woman, about 1.5 meters tall, missing from New York State. But with so many missing persons matching that description, they shifted focus to the barrel's clues. Its serial number traced back to a chemical plant in New Jersey, where it had been manufactured in 1965 to hold dye, a product discontinued by 1971. Ka Hin was questioned next. He explained that when he moved into the house in 1990, the barrel was already there, too heavy to move. Though curious, He'd avoided opening it after spotting the chemical warning label. His calm demeanor convinced police he wasn't involved, ruling him out as a suspect. Records showed the house had 4 owners over the years. Tracing back to the first, a retired man named Howard Elkin living in Florida, police learned he'd owned it in the 1960s. Neighbors described Elkin as a businessman who ran plastic manufacturing companies in Massapequa. The plastic pellets in the barrel sparked a connection. Elkin's company had purchased dye from a New Jersey plant in the 1960s to color artificial flowers and decorations. Soon after, news of the body spread, and an anonymous caller contacted police, claiming Elkin had an affair with a woman at his factory during that era, a woman whose identity remained unknown to the caller. Armed with this lead, police tracked down Elkin in Florida. Now 70 and retired, he was uncooperative but let them inside. When shown a photo of the barrel, he denied ever using such containers or dye at his factory, claims contradicted by their investigation. Pressed about an affair, Elkin admitted to a relationship 35 years prior, but claimed he couldn't recall details. Suspecting the fetus might be his, police requested a DNA sample. Offended, Elkin refused and ordered them out. Back at the lab, technicians salvaged part of the address book. One entry read Mr. Elkin with an old, disconnected number. Another listed Kathy M. R.A. with a working phone number. Police reached Kathy, who, after hearing the story, identified the victim as Lena, a friend from El Salvador. Lena had moved to New York in 1966 at age 26, teaching English and working at a plastic flower company, possibly Elkin's. She was kind, ambitious, and pregnant before vanishing. Kathy recalled Lena mentioning a married lover with 3 kids who promised marriage but reneged. After confronting his wife, Lena received a threatening call from him. Alarmed, Kathy rushed to Lena's apartment, found it unlocked and empty, and reported her missing, omitting the threat to protect Lena's reputation. Police dismissed it as a routine absence, leaving the case cold for decades. Convinced Elkin was Lena's lover, police theorized he lured her to his factory, killed her, and hid her body in the barrel, intending to dump it at sea. Overwhelmed by its weight, he stashed it in the basement instead. Without Cahin's curiosity, the truth might never have surfaced. With Elkin as the prime suspect, police sought a warrant for his DNA, but when they returned, his wife said he'd vanished. They found him dead in his garage, suicide by gunshot. His DNA matched the fetus's at 99.93%, confirming he was the father and likely the killer. The case broke open, though Elkin's death left some questions unanswered. Reporter Oscar Cora covered it for Newsday, later tracking down Lena's 95-year-old mother in El Salvador. She wept, grateful to know her daughter's fate after 35 years. In the address book's final page, Lena's handwriting pleaded, "Don't hate me for telling the truth," a desperate note to Elkin. From a criminal psychology perspective, Elkin fits the profile of a calculated yet impulsive offender. His affair and the murder suggest a man driven by control and self-preservation, unraveled by exposure. The barrel, a makeshift tomb, reflects both his cunning and his limits. Unable to dispose of it, he buried his secret in plain sight. Lena's trust in him and her defiance in confronting his wife sealed her tragic end. This case underscores how unchecked power and desperation can spiral into violence, leaving scars that linger for decades.